What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. We're joined by a loyal friend of the channel, special guest Quincy Bell Sports. Quincy, what's going on, man? Long time no talk.
Hey, man, great to be on. Haven't been on since March Madness. Very excited to talk about some college football because it's right around the corner. I've already been doing previews on my channel, and no better time like the present. Let's get to talking, man.
Yeah, man. You guys make sure that you guys go ahead, subscribe to Quincy Bell Sports, man. He does a lot of great content. Hockey, baseball, NFL, college football. Like, he even covers the Olympic sports, man. If you want your
Not
Olympic
that
sports
much.
coverage.
A little bit. Not that. I did a little World Cup. I hadn't watched soccer like at all until the World Cup. I did a little World Cup.
Yeah. You guys make sure that you guys go ahead and check out my guy Quincy Bell Sports. Has very great sports content. Daniel Jones, don't know how you feel about him. I'm not really that high on him. Just keeping in the stack. And they gave him an extension after a pretty solid season, which he did play pretty well. But do you remember the year the Jacksonville Jaguars went to the AFC Championship game and they lost to the Patriots?
That was a great team, man. That was a great team.
And Blake Bortles, you know, there were a lot of questions about him going into that year. He was in a legitimate quarterback battle with Chad Henne. He beat him out, led Jacksonville to a really successful season. And right after they extended him. And then right after they extended him, he wasn't good. And I kind of feel like Daniel Jones could have a similar regression to what Blake Bortles had after that AFC Championship run. Now, what do you think about him? Am I tripping, or do you think he could regress also?
Okay, I think Daniel Jones is definitely a better quarterback than Blake Bortles. I see where you're coming, though. I see where you're coming from about him not being as great. I don't think he's going to take this, like, giant stuff. I don't think he's going to be, like, a top 10 quarterback. I don't think he's going to be winning MVPs. But I don't think he'll be bad. I think all the Giants really need him to be is what he is, like, a little bit better than what he was last year, because they already won a playoff game with him last year, and they already have a good defense and stuff and supporting cast surrounding him. I do not think it will be a Blake Bortles situation. I think he'll play just as good, maybe a little bit better than this past year, and I think the Giants will be just fine. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs or not, because I know they went, like 9-8, 9-7 last year. I don't remember, but I think they will definitely be in the conversation. I don't think they'll win the division. I don't think they're better than the Eagles, but I think they'll still be in the conversation for like a wild card playoff spot. I don't think he's going to be regressing or not. The New York Post says he's never been more dangerous. That might just be some biased New York media, but I think he'll be all right. I don't think he'll be like world-changingly good or bad, though.
My thing with Daniel Jones is that I don't think he's. My thing with him is that they didn't really have a super tough schedule. And I get they didn't have a talented team around him. And Brian Dable did a really good job of coaching him up. But the schedule is just so difficult for them this year. And in close games, if you got to win with Daniel Jones throwing the football, is he really suited to be able to lead you from behind with 2 minutes down and you need a touchdown to win the game? Like, Paris Campbell, they added him. I felt like that was a mid addition. I don't really feel like they really did a good job of really giving him a better supporting cast outside of bringing in Darren Waller. I felt like that was a really good move. That's one of the best moves of the offseason, especially if he can stay healthy. But with Paris Campbell, Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton, like, do you think that's enough for him to, be able to overcome a regression?
I really like Darren Waller. My friend thinks he's about to be like the best. My friend's a real big Giants fan. He thinks he's about to be like the best tight end in football. I can't really tell if he's joking or not. But, I mean, I think he's got enough. I think he's got enough to at least be just as good as he was last year, in my opinion. I know it's not the most, like, jaw-dropping cast of people, but I think they're good enough.
The Atlanta Falcons, man, I don't really know what to think about this team. It's like I want to say they're a playoff team. They got some nice pieces on the offense. Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson is a monster. Don't know if you've been seeing the training camp footage of him routing up linebackers and defensive backs.
I saw him at Texas. That's all I needed to know about that guy. He's good.
Exactly. Great vision, great after contact. But I look at Atlanta's defense, and I got a lot of concerns. Now, they did spend a lot of money in free agency to revamp the defense. Calais Campbell, David Onyemata, Jeff Okudah, they traded for him, but Jeff Okudah's already injured. And Calais Campbell's up there in age, and I don't really know if their pass rush really got all that better. They got Bud Dupree, they got a couple of other guys, but I want to like the Falcons. But I don't know if they're a playoff team this year. What are your thoughts on them?
Okay. In terms of them being a playoff team, you got to ask yourself, are any other teams in the NFC South really playoff teams? And the Panthers and Bucks definitely aren't. Saints maybe. So I think they can make I wouldn't say it's completely out of the question for them to make the playoffs. Their offense, I think, will be really good. They got Robinson. Tyler Allgeier's a good second running back, too. They got Drake London. Their offense is great. That defense is really not good. I mean, I know they got Calais Campbell. I know Jeff Okudah. I mean, he's okay, but probably not number 3 overall pick good. I don't know what I'll give them. I think anyone can win that division. That division is really not good. Is Derek Carr going to be a real big game changer for the Saints? Maybe. I don't know. I would say the Saints are probably the favorite, but I don't know. I would say no. The winner of this division might have a losing record, but Falcons playoffs, I'm going to have to say no. I don't think they're that good.
My thing with the Falcons is that I don't think they're going to be a bad team. They do have a favorable schedule. They don't play a lot of great quarterbacks, but I'm looking at this division. I do like Carolina. All right. Now, I don't know why you're low on Carolina, but it's like they do got Bryce Young. They got Frank Wright, who is the only head coach in that division with a winning record. And we saw what Doug Peterson did with Trevor Lawrence when he entered the weak division. And remember Bill O'Brien when he was winning a couple of division titles in the weak AFC South. But it's like, I don't think the Falcons don't have a chance. I don't know about you, but I think I'm either going to go with them or the Panthers to win the division. My thing with the Falcons is that I don't really like their defense. And I'm not saying I don't like Desmond Ridder, but he's too much Alex Smith for me. Like in training camp, the dude is a check-down machine. You rarely hear anything about him taking a lot of deep shots. And I don't really want to hear about, we don't need Desmond Ridder to do all that. We just need him to hand the football off, take care of the ball. Like, we really don't know how good this dude is. It's like they want to win games the safe way. And I don't really know if Desmond Ridder is good enough to really be able to be a great game manager for the Falcons. Like, he's kind of hit or miss.
I mean, being an Alex Smith type quarterback's not always a bad thing. I feel like he that is the role he's going to have to play. I don't know if he'll be good enough at it. My thing with the Panthers, though, I'm really not going to trust that a team with a rookie quarterback that much. Like I'm sure Bryce Young will be pretty good in the NFL, but first year I'm not real high on the Panthers, especially since they traded DJ Moore too, the top player on offense. So that's my thing with the Panthers. But yeah, no one in this division's good. I definitely wouldn't completely put it past the Falcons to win it.
Do you like Arthur Smith? Because I kind of like him. I do feel like he has done some good things his first couple of years. I have loved what I've shown from him. And
he's all right. He's not bad.
Yeah, like I would like for him to get a 4th year if they don't have a winning record this year. I really feel like if he gets a 4th year, they'll definitely be a playoff team next year if they can definitely nail quarterback. And if that's really works out,
more pieces for the defense too, because they're going to try to win games like 40-30.
Yeah, because it's like when you look at Arthur Smith, normally head coaches who don't get it done in their 3rd year, they get fired. But I feel like his situation is a little bit unique because they did have like a record high dead cap last offseason that pretty much hindered them from doing anything in free agency. So I really feel like for the Falcons to really have a better team than what they've had in previous years, they really need to give him a fourth year. I think this year they possibly go 8-9. Maybe they can get the 9 wins and win this division, but I really see them as a 7-8 win team. Now, you're a Bears fan, and I don't know how you're feeling about Justin Fields, but I love Justin Fields. He's my favorite player in the league. And I think
Mine too.
Hey, you know what they say? Great minds think alike.
For sure, man.
I feel like the national media overly criticizes Justin Fields, and very unfairly, because I mean he was throwing the Dante Pettis, Equinemius St. Brown, the worst offensive line in the league. Like, what the hell was he supposed to do with that last season?
Yeah.
I don't really get the narrative that the media paints about Justin Fields being a bust. I think he has been pretty good if given the ideal situation, when he has good offensive line protection in front of him and he has some solid receivers, he can do a lot of damage. And we saw what he did in that first preseason game, even though it was a bunch of screens and checkdowns. I mean, shoot, he got playmakers now. So does that mean the Bears are now going to be a playoff lock this year with Justin Fields and these weapons they have?
I don't know about playoff lock. Their schedule, I will say, is a lot more favorable than last year. Last year, they had a real tough schedule. They played a lot of really good teams. But this year, they played the Chiefs in week 3. But, other than that, Packers, Bucks, Broncos, Commanders, I'm saying out-of-division games. Raiders, Chargers, Saints, Panthers, Browns, Cardinals, Falcons. They play a lot of easier teams. The only out-of-division games that really scare me are obviously at the Chiefs and the Chargers, and that's really it for out-of-conference games, out-of-division games that really scare me. In terms of playoffs, I don't know if they're going to have enough. I definitely would not say playoff lock. I don't think they're a playoff lock. I do think they can get it. I think they will be right around that 8-9, 9-8, 10-7 range. Because I do think Justin Fields will take a really big step this year. I think since he finally has people around him. And they also improved the defense a lot. That was one thing last year. The Bears almost never have a subpar defense, and they had a really subpar defense last year because they traded a lot of guys. They got rid of Roquan Smith. It was like their first full season without Khalil Mack. They got rid of a lot of people on defense, but they reloaded a lot on the defensive end. And DJ Moore, I mean, for a 60-yard screen pass that he caught in that first preseason game, he looked really good. Khalil Herbert and Donta Foreman, I think he's going to be a really good change of pace running back because Khalil Herbert is your fast, quick guy. And Donta Foreman's just like a Dollar Tree Derrick Henry when he was on the Titans. He's a guy that can run through people. So I think that's going to be a really good running back tandem. The receivers, I think, will be great. Mooney and DJ Moore. People just need to put their damn calculators down. There's this one guy on TikTok, Instagram. He his whole page is just dedicated to ripping at Justin Fields. It's like, well, he had the worst long throw percentage. Blah, blah, blah. He brings out all these stupid advanced stats. It's like he had nothing to work with. The O-line's better. They used their top pick on an O-lineman, and then they used a 4th or 3rd round pick on another O-lineman. So the O-line's going to be a lot better. I'm really excited to see what this Bears team has. And I wouldn't say playoff lock, but they're definitely going to be contending for a wild card for sure.
And I feel like a lot of people, when it comes to Justin Fields, they throw all these stats out there, but they lack context. Yeah. Stats are stats for a reason. They replicate what you do on the field, but they don't show how good you are as an overall player. And to have a good quarterback, you got to give him some good pieces around him. And they haven't really done that until now with DJ Moore. And I think that DJ Moore just completely changes this offense. And he completely helps Justin Fields reach another level. You remember when the Buffalo Bills traded for Stephon Diggs?
Yeah.
Josh Allen reached a different level last year.
And what I've been hearing too is Jalen Hurts Not very great his first 2 years. Got AJ Brown his third year, made the Super Bowl. There was another example. It was on the tip of my tongue. Josh Allen. Mid the first 2 years, got Stephon Diggs, and was doing a lot of stuff. Justin Fields, kind of mid his first 2 years, he's getting DJ Moore. Hopefully, same results. I don't think DJ Moore is as good as AJ Brown and Stephon Diggs. He's not that good of a receiver, but I think it'll still be enough to make a considerable leap forward.
I'm not high on the Chargers this year, mainly because I don't believe in Brandon Staley. He's somebody who's too caught up in the analytics. His late game management is not that great. And his overall roster management isn't good neither. His decision to play his starters in the final game of the regular season last year, in the game that didn't matter, ended up resulting in Mike Williams getting injured. And then their gigantic collapse against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And this year, it seems like people are still once again picking the LA Chargers to do a lot of great things this year. Now, I like their new offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. I feel like he was scapegoated with the Dallas Cowboys. But, I mean, this team I don't think they really play well under Brandon Staley. I think that they've massively underachieved with Brandon Staley being their head coach the past couple of years. Do you think they underachieve again this year?
I personally think Brandon Staley is the worst coach in the NFL. I think he's terrible. He makes the most bonehead decisions that literally anyone with common sense can figure out. This guy is terrible. I don't care what kind of analytics and new age stuff. He's garbage. Okay. This guy does not know what he's doing. Kellen Moore, I like Kellen Moore. I think he'll work really well with Justin Herbert. I think the Chargers will still make the playoffs. I think they'll still make the playoffs because they still have enough talent, but they're not winning a playoff game. They're not winning the AFC. They have the talent to go. Talent-wise, they are one of the best teams in football. They just have a joke of a head coach. He doesn't know what he's doing. Like, he constantly will go for it on fourth down from like his own 20 when punting it with a lead would be much better. Like here's the thing. The game against the Raiders 2 years ago when he didn't play for the tie, when a tie would have made him in the playoffs, that should have got him fired, which he didn't. If that shouldn't have got him fired, blowing a 28-0 lead, 27-0 lead to Jacksonville, that should have gotten him fired. That's unacceptable. They were just so much better talented. And in the first half of that game, where coaching is important throughout the course of a game, but it's more important on the back end of the game. When coaching is not they're blowing teams out. Like I just don't get it. Like he's out here playing Mike Williams in a game that doesn't matter. He's awful. I think he's the worst coach in football. That's just me, though.
I won't go as far to say he's the worst coach in the NFL. I definitely feel like Todd Bowles and Dennis Allen definitely can take the cake for that.
He's not great either,
but with Brandon Staley, my biggest issue with him is that when are we finally going to see this defensive mastermind put an elite defense on the field? And Charger fans, the excuse that they use for him is, he hasn't had all his players, injuries, this. Like, the best defensive performance I've seen out of the Chargers under Brandon Staley in all these years was when they clamped up the Dolphins on Sunday night. Now, I will give him a lot of props for that. And he did do that with injuries. You feel me? He was down a couple of his key players. So I give him a lot of props for that. But outside of that, I haven't really seen anything. And one red flag of mine that is an easy giveaway that you don't have a good head coach is when they specialize on one side of the football, and that side of the football that they specialize in isn't good. And the defense last year, I mean, it wasn't awful, but I've yet to see an elite defense on this field. And people keep saying he needs more time. It's like Robert Saleh had a good defense year one.
Yeah. Like Matt Nagy, offensive guru from Kansas City, was averaging like 10 points a game for the Bears. Like, I totally get what you're saying. And I think maybe with Kellen Moore will take more of the offensive priority, and that will slow down some of his goofball tendencies. But yeah, I still think they're good enough to make the playoffs because I don't know if their schedule doesn't look like overly hard.
Well, this is
But
why I think they could underachieve this year because I only got them winning 6 games. And here's why. You got Sean Payton in this division now. Now, even though, Russ does look kind of cooked, even in the preseason,
he's cooked.
I trust Sean Payton because remember Sean Payton's final season in New Orleans? He won with Jameis Winston. They were 5-1 on top of the division at one point before Jameis went down.
I know that's your guy, Jameis Winston.
Yeah, and then after Jameis goes down, Sean Payton still finds a way to go 9-8 at the end of the season with Ian Book, Taysom Hill, Trevor Siemian, and his best wide receiver being Marquez Callaway. And I do feel like even though the Broncos' offense may not be elite or tremendously improved, I don't think this offense is going to be any worse under Sean Payton than what it was under Nathaniel Hackett. I feel
You're saying they'll be better than the Chargers.
Yeah, at least I have faith that Sean Payton isn't going to blow games when he has large leads. And I feel like coaching does matter. And I do think that Sean Payton can outcoach and coach circles around Brandon Staley. Now, I think the Raiders are going to be
I don't think the Chargers will go 6-11. I think they'll still be good enough to make the playoffs just because their talent is just so much better than a lot of teams. But yeah, I still don't think the Broncos will be great. I know Sean Payton's pretty good, but it's going to be hard to recover from just how bad they were last year. Because I didn't think they'd be great last year, and they were even worse than I thought they would be. But I still don't think the Broncos will be that much of a threat. I don't think they'll be better than the Chargers.
What would you consider an underachieving season for the Chargers this year? Do they have to make it to the divisional round?
I would say, I think if they don't win a playoff game, I think it's underachieving. They just have so much talent on their roster. They have Herbert, Eckler, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen's still there. They have Derwin James, not Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa. They just have so much talent on that team. You have to do something with it.
You got to, man. And you got a really good offensive-minded coach in Kellen Moore. And the Chargers ownership, they have this narrative that they don't spend money. They spent money. They have no problem paying to get free agents. They have no problem paying Justin Herbert, building around them. But they got a problem with having a hard time moving on from underachieving coaches. Because remember, they didn't even want to move on from Anthony Lynn. You feel me?
That guy was bad too. Dude.
Even when he was underachieving, they should have moved on from him the year that they didn't get it done against New England, despite the success they had. And even the season after, they didn't want to move on from him. So I just think the Chargers, I don't really know how they're going to do in close games this year. I don't trust Brandon Staley. If they had Sean Payton as their head coach, I feel like this team probably could end up winning the Super Bowl with all the talent they have. But it's just, I'm just not sold on the Chargers, man. I really can't get behind the Chargers. But Brent Venables, head coach of Oklahoma, most people are not really high on him. How do you feel about Brent Venables? Do you think he's the right guy, or do you think he's going to fail?
Remember when you said you don't like coaches that say they're real good on one side of the ball, and then that side of the ball is really doing poorly?
Can I give your excuse, though?
That's what you have with Brent Venables.
Can I give your explanation? He did have a lot of guys who had to who transferred out when Lincoln Riley left. And they didn't really have a lot of talent on that side of the football.
I'll give you that. They were still really bad, though. They were out here, getting, they got thrashed. TCU was about to put up 70 on them. TCU had, I think, 50 when the fourth quarter started. And if they didn't call off the dogs, they could have put up 70 on them. I'll give you a different example. This is kind of more Oklahoma as in general, not just this isn't just a Brent Venables thing. This is more of an Oklahoma overall type thing. When was the last time a team was winning their conference, pretty much winning or coming close to winning their conference every year, and then they thought they were too good for said conference and they are moving to a different conference and thinking that they would run that conference, and then they ended up getting beat a lot of the time, and now they're kind of an afterthought with college football.
Nebraska?
And that's Nebraska.
People keep saying that. Oh my God. You're the second person who said that.
I think that very well could happen because I think it can. Because I think Texas will be okay. I think Texas will be able to recruit well and stuff. But I definitely think it can happen with Oklahoma. I really think it can happen. Because there are so many similarities. Because, like, ask yourself, are they as good as Alabama? Are they as good as LSU? Are they as good as Georgia? Are they as good as...
They do recruit. They do bring in a really good quarterback, Jackson Arnold. They did have, like, a top 10 class. So they can recruit. He does have a really good staff.
Everyone else in the SEC... There are 7 other teams in the SEC that have a top 10 class. I'm not saying that they're not going to be good. I'm just saying I feel like, will get eaten alive in the SEC. I don't think it's going to be pretty because in the Big 12, they're traditionally better than most of the teams. They're usually better than TCU. They're usually better than Baylor and Texas Tech. But are they really as good as LSU? Are they as good as LSU? Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee's good this year. Should be good this year. I don't think they'll be that great, man. I think they're really going to struggle.
You see, wow, I guess I'm just way higher on Brent Venables than most people, and I don't even think he's going to, like, lead them to a national championship or anything, but I at least think he can keep them around 8-9 wins. And then maybe occasionally, depending on how their schedule goes in the SEC, where they get a couple of breaks, they don't have to.
I think this year, 8-9 wins is definitely not out of the question. But I feel like when they get to the SEC, they'll be struggling to keep bowl eligibility.
Oh my goodness. You're not the first person who said this. It's with me, I give Brent Venables the fact that he's been on 2 championship staffs. Bob Stoops, early 2000s with OU, and then with Clemson. So it's like he knows what it takes to build a championship level program. And even though he's a defensive-minded coach, there was another defensive-minded coach whose defense wasn't good last year. His name is Dan Lanning, coach of Oregon.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
But it's I
had really high hopes for Dan Lanning. I was kind of disappointed the way Oregon kind of fizzled last year.
Yeah, but it's like it kind of was lightning in a bottle. And for Oklahoma, they do have Dylan Gabriel. They do have Jackson Arnold, who's going to take up the mantle behind him. I mean, you do have talent. And one thing we do know is that if you do have talent, that is good enough to at least keep you somewhat around float, win you a couple of games depending on who you play, because I do think when they get to the SEC, they will be better from a talent standpoint than Missouri, Vanderbilt, and...
But those teams are already, like, okay, they're better than 2 teams in the SEC. Those teams are already not making bowl games every year. Vandy doesn't even have a stadium. Half their stadiums, I don't know if you saw that. If y'all are unaware, Vanderbilt is like redoing half of their stadium, and they like completely have half of it torn down, and they play a game in like 10 days. Like it's crazy.
Damn.
So like they don't even have a stadium. Missouri, they're already not that great. I'll give you that they might be better than Texas A&M, because Texas A&M currently has no idea what they're doing.
Wow, Quincy. So you just think that Oklahoma is just going to become a bottom dweller in the SEC under Brent Venables?
I don't think they'll be a bottom dweller. I don't think they'll be as bad as Vandy and Mizzou. But I think they'll be like a mid-tier SEC team. I don't think they will be making bowl games every year. Like I think they will be like between 8-4 and 5-7 like every year. I don't think they'll ever make the SEC title or win a division or something like that.
And I agree with that. I don't think that Brent Venables is going to be able to get them to a national title or even a SEC championship game. Now, we could be wrong, because we still have
Yeah.
to see what he does this year. And there have been coaches who have been able to change the narrative about them. But there are a lot of middle of the road programs right now in the SEC. It's like, I think on a good year, Oklahoma, with the recruiting class that they bring in, they're better than Missouri. They're better than Vandy. I'll take them over Auburn. I don't know about Arkansas. Arkansas is one of those teams.
Arkansas's gotten better. Arkansas started last year really, really well, and then they lost to Liberty and kind of. So I will say they might be better. I think they're a better team than Arkansas this year. I do think they'll be better than Texas A&M. That's a story for a whole nother day. I don't know if I'm not going to get into that. They were the biggest disappointment because I had them going to the playoff last year, and they went and they didn't even make a bowl game. I was really upset. And now they don't know whether or not they want to buy out Jimbo Fisher or not. They had a bunch of guys transfer out. They still really don't have a quarterback, and they're 25 in the preseason poll. I don't really know what we're thinking.
Hey,
there.
Oklahoma's in the preseason poll too, so that may mean something.
I think 20 is fair. That's what they. I just look at who they have them at. I think that's fair. I think they'll be good this year. I just think they're going to get a reality check when they get to the SEC. I feel like because Nebraska thought they were going to run the Big Ten, and they very much did not. I think they made the Big Ten title their first year. And then they haven't made it back.
This season, I think, is a real big season in terms of defining if Brent Venables is going to be it or not. If OU can win 8-9 games this year, I think that gives them okay momentum going into the SEC. I think it would give Brent Venables, a little bit of a good standing going into the first season of SEC play. But if they could find a way to play as good as what the level of talent that they have on their roster, and they could make it to the Big 12 championship game, and they don't have to win it, you feel me? Because I do think that Texas is just so much better than them this season.
I mean, they beat them like 49-0 last year or something like that.
Yeah, and they had no quarterback. I just think that Brent Venables, he had a lot of roster issues that he really couldn't overcome. Now, I still don't think that's the excuse for that defense being as bad as what it was. It was one of the worst defenses in college football. But
I think he'll regroup this year. I feel like you are kind of right about them losing players. Like, I'll give him a little slack for the bad defense that he had, but this is a really big prove-it year for him, I think.
Notre Dame is one of those programs that every time they get to the college football playoffs, people say, man, this team's overrated. They get there and they never do shit. But I think that Notre Dame, when I ask this question, are they overrated or overrated? I mean to ask, yeah, they don't have a lot of success when it comes to the BCS National Championship game, getting blasted by Alabama and, losing in embarrassing fashion in the college football playoffs on a couple of occasions. But we at least have to give them props for at least making it, right? Because we make it seem like Notre Dame hasn't done anything. Making it to the college football playoffs is an accomplishment. Making it to a national championship is an accomplishment, regardless of the final result. So how do you feel about Notre Dame football overall, at least right now? Do you think they're overrated or are they overhated?
Okay. I am probably the world #1 critic when it comes to saying Notre Dame's overrated, just because I live in Indiana, and mostly people around here think they're so good. Okay. Here's what I'll say. I'll talk about Notre Dame in the past, and then I'll talk about them going into this year. The year they played Alabama in the national title, I think that was 2012, something like that. I remember my dad's from the South. My dad's from Smithville, Tennessee. He's a big SEC guy. And I was like maybe 8 at the time. And I was like, Dad, Notre Dame's going to win the national title. Everyone tells me Notre Dame's good. He goes, I bet you Alabama beats them badly. And they did. And they did. And that Notre Dame team should have never played for a national title. They went 14-0 by playing absolutely nobody. The two other times in the playoff, I mean, they were okay. They were all right in those years. I am pretty much always the first person to say Notre Dame's overranked. Notre Dame will not live up to expectations this year. Notre Dame will not be good because, okay, Purdue is IU's biggest rival. I will root for Purdue if they're playing Notre Dame because Notre Dame fans are so annoying. I can't stand it. You can at least have a respectful conversation with a Purdue fan. That being said, though, I think Notre Dame will live up to the hype this year. I think they will be really good this year because Sam Hartman.
Thank you.
Dude, that guy is a stud. I think he will be great at Notre Dame. Now, their schedule's pretty tough. They have some tough games. They got to play at Clemson. At Duke won't be easy. They have Ohio State at
Even
home.
Louisville.
Louisville will be good, too, with they
Jeff
got the Browns now. Jeff Brom's their coach. He left Purdue. I think Notre Dame, because here's the thing. They lost to Ohio State last year.
But it was close.
It was a close game, and they had, what's his name at quarterback? They had Buckner.
Tyler Buckner. He's Alabama's problem.
They lost Marshall, and everyone laughed at him. My friend is a real big Marshall fan. He was celebrating like for the whole month.
Those exist?
Yeah, he's from West Virginia. But after those two games, they turned it around. They were really good. They beat Clemson. They beat South Carolina in that bowl game. They were really good, and that was without really a true quarterback. I was really impressed the way Marcus Freeman turned that year around. I was really impressed to where now they have a quarterback, and most of that momentum from the next year, I think they're going to be good. I think they'll be really good. I actually, in my preview for Ohio State, I had them losing to Notre Dame. Reason being is because Ohio State's going to have a new quarterback, Kyle McCord, who hasn't really started in a full capacity. I'm going to say, just for my pride, it'll be his second true road game because his first game of the year is at IU, and I hope we'll make it a true road game atmosphere. I don't think we'll win, but I hope we can at least compete. But playing at Notre Dame in a primetime game is different than playing at IU in a 2:30 game. I think they will lose that. I think Notre Dame will win that game. I think they'll lose at Clemson. I think that'll be a really tough game. I think they'll lose at Clemson. I feel like Clemson's another team. People think they won't be that great. Cade Klubnik's really good, too. I think they will lose. I think they'll lose to Clemson. And they play USC will be a really good game. I don't know if they'll beat USC. I feel like they'll lose to Clemson. And I feel like they'll lose one other game. But if they go undefeated, I don't know if they will. But if they go undefeated, I won't have an issue with them making the playoffs.
I honestly think this may be the best Notre Dame team that we've seen in a very long time. And last year, I thought Tyler Buckner was going to be that guy. He was one of the better quarterbacks that they recruited, and he just didn't work out. Drew Pine, I thought he was okay at times, but Sam Hartman is really that guy. The biggest knock that
this guy Wake Forest in the top 10.
Exactly.
That's how good this guy is.
And there's a misconception, I think, about Notre Dame football that they don't have a great wide receiving core. Is their wide receiving core the best in college football? No, it's not. But I do think that they have enough, especially with Sam Hartman being the quarterback, that they should get productive play out of their wide receivers. And what really makes a killing for Notre Dame is the talent that they have at tight end. They're tight end you pretty much. And they have one of the best offensive lines in college football. You got Joe Alt at tackle. I think their running back core is pretty good. And they're going to have a phenomenal defense. They could have a top 10 defense.
Marcus Freeman, that was one thing. Marcus Freeman's a defensive-minded coach, and his defense performed through, like, especially in that Clemson game, because they had him shut out, like, in the first half. That's why I think they're in a lot better shape than Oklahoma. I'll ask you this though: Do you think that with all these college football super conferences and stuff, do you think they'll eventually join a conference? You don't think they will?
No, Notre Dame is just, for some reason, Notre Dame just has pull, fam. Like, the ACC.
And that's why I don't like them. That's why I can't stand them, because all their fans have their heads.
They have, like, it. I ain't gonna hold you. I saw an article when it came to the ACC expansion. I don't know if you seen it, how they wanted to add Stanford and Cal and SMU, and the Notre Dame athletic director, he's sitting here shouting, "It's a disgrace to college football that Stanford and Cal, two of the best academic institutions in the world, could not be playing in a Power 5 conference." Well, I mean, that's their fault. Care more about athletics. You get what I'm saying? Like, why are you Notre Dame, who's not even an official member of the ACC for football, having a say in this? And I think I saw a report that said that a lot of other ADs in the ACC are a little bit annoyed with Notre Dame and all this pull they have. But the thing with Notre Dame is that they are a big brand with a big fan base, and they bring in a lot of revenue. In whichever conference they want to join, I think they will be welcomed with open arms, because if you're the Big Ten, you're not going to turn down Notre Dame because it's Notre Dame. Same thing with the SEC. It's like if Notre Dame was to join your conference, you're going to accept them. But it's just, I think a lot of people are turned off to Notre Dame because they walk to the beat of their own drum, which I kind of like, honestly.
What really annoys me about Notre Dame is that, say what you want, they are afraid of the Big Ten. They are so afraid of the Big Ten, they won't join it. They'll play Michigan they'll do a home and home with Michigan every once in a while. They'll do a home and home with Ohio State every once in a while. I feel like they know they can't handle playing Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, even Michigan State. Sometimes, I know they're not going to be good this year, but they would rather play a bunch of middle of the road ACC teams, and because they know they can't handle it in the Big Ten. That's why they're going to pick and choose. That's part of why I really can't stand Notre Dame, is because they do all this, and they're like, oh, well, we fancy ourselves as an independent. It's like, you are right in the middle of Big Ten country. They're directly between Purdue, Michigan, Ohio. They're right in the middle of Big Ten. They apparently, I heard this, when the Big Ten was forming, they didn't want them because I don't even know what. I think like Michigan's AD in like the 1920s was like, oh, well, we do not want this Catholic school in our conference. And so that's why they're like, they just have this grudge. But like, bro, that's 100 years ago. Like, if you wanted to join the Big Ten, they would let you. They're taking Washington and Oregon. If you wanted to, you could come. They don't want to.
And the thing with Notre Dame, apparently, all these conference realignment articles that I read, they all say that Notre Dame is one of the biggest players that could really turn conference realignment upside down. Like, if they were to join the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, whoever else would have to make a move ASAP.
If they're scared of the Big 10, they are for sure. If they're scared of the Big 10, they're petrified of the SEC. I don't even remember. When even was the last time they played an SEC team?
I do remember them. Did they beat Florida that one year? When they had Malik Zaire at QB?
No, they played Georgia. They did a home and home against Georgia. I think they lost. They lost both games.
But one thing about Notre Dame, though, with Marcus Freeman, their recruiting has picked up, and they do have a pretty good NIL collective. So I think whichever conference, if they were to choose to join one, talent-wise, I think they'll be able to compete. Brian Kelly wasn't able to recruit there for some reason, but Marcus Freeman just has the secret sauce.
I think Marcus Freeman's like a younger coach. I think he'll be a really good recruiter, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
I honestly think that Notre Dame could have some of their best years ever under Marcus Freeman.
They could.
Honestly, because if Brian Kelly can get that program as far as what he did with the limitations that he claimed he had, and Marcus Freeman is able to take the lock off those limitations and just fully unlock the potential of Notre Dame football, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be in the conversation nearly every year, because it's not like they're bringing in, top 15 classes. Like Notre Dame, if they really wanted to, could bring in a top 5 class if they have the necessary NIL collective to do so, and
I
if they
don't
have a
I
lot of
don't know
momentum.
if they have I don't know if they have the potential to bring in like a top 5 class every year, because a lot of people are turned off by the whole like independent thing. But yeah, I think they do have potential to be really good. And here's the thing: if they join the Big Ten, they would be making so much more money. But they have their own. Basically, the TV deals are running everything, and they have their own deal with NBC, which I don't know how they would even do that. I saw one thing. They said that the Longhorn Network is the main reason why everything's happening, because they had like, I mean, there's like a meme where they have like the domino that's like this big, and then the one that's like the size of a door, and they keep getting bigger. It was like the Longhorn Network caused Colorado and Nebraska and Missouri and Colorado,
Texas
Missouri,
A&M.
yeah, and A&M, caused them all to leave the Big 12. So then, because they're like, well, we don't want Texas to be getting all the money from the Longhorn Network, so we're just going to leave. And so that's how they got Baylor and TCU and all them. And then that led to the Big 12 being not great. That's what led to Texas and Oklahoma eventually leaving, and that's what led to the Big 10. And then it ended with like the Pac-12 being gone, which I feel really bad for Oregon State, Washington State, Stanford, and Cal. Because Stanford was a top 10 team not that long ago. And Oregon State's supposed to be really good this year. Oregon State is ranked in 18. They have the ukulele transferring in from Clemson. Oregon State's going to be a really good team. They beat Florida like 30-3 in a bowl game. Oregon State's going to be really good. And then they're going to be in a conference with 4 teams.
And Notre Dame just refuses to join the conference while they just see everything else unfolding in madness.
They're kind of just sitting there like, nice. But eventually, here's the thing: they now have to go undefeated to make the playoff, like every year. They can't afford to like make the playoff with 1 loss, and I feel like they're gonna have to like really start, because like I forget what was the one year they made the playoff. They played like 1 ranked team, and then got like blown out by Alabama or whoever.
You know what? I still don't think Notre Dame is going to join the conference, even with expansion. You want to know why? Because Notre Dame is just one of those schools that just finds ways to work around the system. You remember that COVID year where they temporarily joined the ACC and then made it to the ACC championship?
That was crazy, man. My friend who's a Notre Dame fan, he's like, we have more conference title appearances than Miami. I know you're a big.
How embarrassing is that? Like, no, like Notre Dame just can't find a way to lose, and they're like Thanos. Regardless of how difficult you think it's going to be for them to get to college football playoff appearance, they just find a way to get there. Because when we went to 4 teams, I don't think anybody thought that Notre Dame was ever going to be able to reach the playoffs, but they did. And it's like every time you count out Notre Dame, they just find a way. They're just a really smart and well-ran university in terms of, how they go about handling their business, how they go about getting new TV deals, and how they go about manipulating the ACC. Like, let's just keep it 100, bro. Like, the ACC is getting played by Notre Dame. Like, Notre Dame kind of runs the ACC somewhat.
Well, because they're in there for basketball. Because, like, for basketball, they're in the ACC. For all these other, they're actually Notre Dame is in the Big Ten for hockey, which is pretty interesting because, like, not every Big Ten team is a hockey team. Like, Indiana doesn't have one. I wish they did, because that'd be so much fun to go to hockey games. But like Notre Dame, the Big Ten teams that are really good at hockey are Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, and Notre Dame also is really good in hockey. So they joined the Big Ten for hockey, but they can't do it for, I don't know. They just kind of do whatever they want, and somebody needs to give them like a reality check that they just can't run around doing whatever they want because they think they're a lot better than they are.
Yeah, like I will agree with that. I do feel like Notre Dame kind of feels like they're this upper echelon blue chip program. Now they are a blue blood program for what that's worth, but
they have no national title since 1998.
But at the same time, though, it's like
1988. Actually.
But hold up, though. At the same time, though, this is what makes them interesting. We say they're not an elite program, but people consider USC and Texas to be elite programs. So Notre Dame has had way more success in the last decade than what USC and Texas have had.
For a really long time, Texas was not an elite program. They had losing records under like Charlie Strong in them. For a while, Texas was really bad. And USC not that long ago wasn't great either. And even Notre Dame had some years where they weren't very. I think they had one year where they were under 500 or something. But yeah, I just can't stand. Their fans are so annoying. I know you live in Florida. You probably don't encounter that many Notre Dame fans.
Believe it or not, I make a good amount of Notre Dame content because their fans eat it up. Like I just up that.
But like really around Chicago, like okay, if you're a college football fan in Chicago, Notre Dame's the closest, I guess, power program. Unless you want to root for Northwestern, which, believe me, you do not want to do this. If you're a Northwestern fan, find another team. You get a bandwagon pass. From me to you, you get a bandwagon pass to pick whatever team you want to cheer for, because they're going to be really bad. They might go winless. I'm not even kidding. They might go winless. But yeah, but they're all around Chicago, and like, okay, I get the people that were like Notre Dame fans that like, but like they just pass them down. They just keep coming in like the next generations, and they're so annoying.
What's annoying about them? That really frustrates you.
They think that every year they think they're the best team ever, and they think they're just so entitled. They think you can never like talk to them. You can never say that they won't be that great this year. They always just have something to say about how like, oh well, we made the playoff. It's like both of the years they made the college football playoff, they really weren't that great of teams. I know I get that they may have been deserving to, but like they've had multiple years where they like are way higher ranked than they should, and every year they're just so annoying. Whenever they're doing well, you will just never hear them shut up. And then they'll lose a game, and then they'll be like, "Oh, it's because of this. It's because of this. It's because of this. It's because of this." They're relentless, man. They're relentless.
Michigan, people feel like they run the Big Ten now. They've won the Big Ten championship for 2 straight years in a row, and are they going to do it a 3rd straight time?
If I had to put money, I would say yes. I think they're at least on paper the best team coming into the Big Ten this year. My record prediction for them was 11-1. The only game I had them losing was at Penn State, because I think Penn State will be really good this year. Drew Aller is that dude. He's really, really good. He came in when Penn State was up like 40 on IU. I saw him play, and he was really good. He was impressive. So I think they'll lose at Penn State. But I think they'll beat Ohio State again, because J.J. McCarthy is in now his 2nd year starting, and he's doing really well. Ohio State's got a 1st-year starter, and it's going to be a home game for Michigan. And if Ohio State couldn't beat them last year with C.J. Stroud and all of them in a game at home, how are they going to beat them without C.J. Stroud in a game on the road? I'll give them this. They should be motivated as hell to win that game. I'll give them that. Ohio State, Ryan Day, they bet Ohio State players better be in the weight room. Bench just Michigan. That's all they got to think about this year.
Michigan is overlooking them. Like, Michigan has a day in practice called Georgia Day where they just focus on Georgia. How disrespectful is that?
I don't really know how that came to be, because I really don't. I heard about that. I do know what you're talking about. I don't know how that came to be. The thing is, though, is Michigan still hates Ohio State a ton. They'll still get up for that game.
But it's like they're not even – it's like when you talk about teams that have a chance to win it all, nobody even really mentions Michigan. Nobody really mentions Ohio State. And it's
Well,
so
I had
crazy
Ohio
because
State
Ohio
going
State has a great team.
They have a great team, but they're not as good as they were last year, and they couldn't get it done last year. So that's why I think a lot of people are having a really hard time getting Ohio State to come around. I have Ohio State finishing 10-2. I think they lose to Notre Dame and Michigan.
Okay, how
I
about
think those are
this?
going to be two.
What if that Jim Knowles defense actually looks like the Jim Knowles defense that we saw at Oklahoma State? Because it was year one for him. If it improves and it's as good as what it was at OK State, how different would you feel about Michigan being able to win the Big Ten?
I don't know. Like I said, if Ohio State beats Michigan, I wouldn't be totally I wouldn't be like, oh my God, what an upset. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But yeah, I don't know. If I had to put money on a team to win the Big Ten, I would put it on Michigan. Because I think they are the best team in the Big Ten. I think Penn State is a team that will give them a run. I have Penn State finishing 10-2. I have them losing at Ohio State. And I have them losing at Maryland. Maryland will be good this year. They are a sleeper team with Tulia Tagovailoa, Tua's little brother, in year, I think 3 as a starter. Maryland will be good. Watch out for them. I think that ultimately spoils Penn State's chance. But you could have a situation where Ohio State beats Penn State beats Michigan, Michigan beats Ohio State, you have a 3-way tie. I ultimately think Penn State's definitely the worst of those 3. That's not really – they're still a top 10 team. But I think they play at Maryland right before they play home against Michigan. So that's why I think that'll be a trap game for them. But, yeah, here's the thing. I think Michigan will win the Big Ten. I think they're the best team in the Big Ten. I still don't think they're good enough to make a national title. I don't think you're beat Georgia. That's not happening. They can't beat Georgia. I don't think they're good enough to beat Georgia. Like, they're just not good. They're just not good enough. Like, I don't think they're better than I just don't think they're better than a lot of teams. Like, I saw them last year when they played Indiana. They were tied 10-10 at halftime, and they were up 17-10 going into the fourth quarter. I thought IU was going to win that game for a second. I was like, they're going to mess around and win this game. They didn't. But they held it dangerously close. Michigan's still – they're really good. I think they'll win the Big Ten with 1 loss. I don't think they're good enough to make a national title because they totally overlooked TCU in that game. Like,
yeah,
the game they lost TCU.
You could obviously tell. But when I look at Michigan, though, they got a really good squad. But in these rivalry games, I really don't think talent is the end-all, be-all. Ohio State,
I understand. I get where you're coming from.
I think that Ohio State is being a little bit overlooked by people because you look at their front 7, arguably the best. I won't say better than Michigan's because I think Michigan's defensive line development is on par with Georgia. They do a really good job at getting their defensive linemen into the league, especially their offensive line. Like, you can make the argument that either Michigan or Georgia are 2 of the best schools or one of the others the best at, developing players in the trenches for the next level. But Ohio State has some real dogs on their front 7. JTT, who literally took over that Penn State game. Who's that linebacker? Tommy Eichenberg. You got
He's good.
Like, I think that if Ohio State's defense can improve, I don't know if Michigan wins the Big Ten for a 3rd straight time. And the reason why I feel this way is because I'm not saying Michigan isn't a great team, but I have a really hard time seeing them beating Ohio State 3 straight. Do you know how crazy of a swing that would be? They went from dragging Michigan every single year to getting dragged by Michigan and the plot twist years later, fam. And how much pressure would be on Ryan Day if they were to lose 3 straight would be monumental, especially if they don't make it to the college football playoffs. And it's crazy because
pressure's already on them after losing 2.
And this is somebody who has never lost more than 2 games in the season?
Yeah. Well, the thing is Michigan fans are very similar to the Notre Dame fans. For a while, they were like, we're going to win the national title. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And then they lose to Ohio State. And I said, I'm like, I am never picking Michigan to beat Ohio State until they do it. Doesn't matter what their records are. I said, I'm not picking them to win it until they do it. And then they did it in the greatest game in Michigan football history, it seemed. And then they went out and did it again in a game I really didn't think they'd win. I thought Ohio State would beat them last year because the problem with Ohio State, here's what happened last year. Michigan's ground game was crazy because Blake Corum was one of the best running backs, but he got hurt. The thing is, Donovan Edwards, their backup running back, I think
might be better.
I think he's better. But their ground game and offensive line was just so powerful to where Ohio State said, all right, we're putting everyone in the box. We're going to make J.J. McCarthy. If you're going to beat us, you're going to have to beat us over the top. And that secondary got cooked. I mean, they got flamed. I don't know how improved their secondary is, but it better be a lot improved because they were bad. In that game particularly, they were terrible.
Especially their safety play. Those tight ends that Michigan had, Luke Schoonmaker, and that other dude they have, I mean, they were eating on Lathan Ransom.
It was like their wide receiver, it was like one move, boom, they have like 20 yards of separation. So they better get that secondary figured out.
I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm going to say Michigan doesn't win it for a third straight time. I
wouldn't be totally shocked if that happened.
I think Ohio State's roster,
I don't think it's out of the question.
Yeah, like Ohio State, they do have questions when it comes to their offensive line. I think at their tackle spots. But I think that Ryan Day is so good offensively that I'm not too worried about it. And last year, I don't think Michigan went in there and just completely dominated Ohio State. It was a close game into the fourth quarter where, the screws just came on loose for Ohio State and they just completely fell apart. I think this year, losing 2 straight to Michigan has really forced Ohio State to make an identity change. I don't think, yes, they are going to be a team that is going to air you out. They do have the label of being more finesse than Michigan. But I really think that this year, with the fact that they have Travion Henderson coming back fully healthy, I think that this run game, I think that Ohio State is going to be a lot better, when it comes to matching Michigan's physicality this year. I think that Ohio State, after them getting out physical the previous 2 years, I think they're going to come in with a different mindset that they're just going to say, you remember when Jim Harbaugh, the year they beat Ohio State, he said, we either going to beat Ohio State or we're going to die trying. I really feel like that's what Ryan Day's mindset is because there is so much riding on this game. And this game, I see why they call it the game because the stakes are always so high. It's like for you to get to the Big Ten championship, you got to win this game. And if you don't, you might not even get into the college football playoffs. And potentially one of these two teams might have a one loss to Penn State potentially. So the stakes will be even bigger.
It's the one thing for Ohio State gets Penn State at home, Michigan gets them on the road. I'll end with this though. They say college football is about X's and O's and Jimmies and Joes. Ryan Day, in the years he was winning a lot with Ohio State, never won a national title, but the years he was made the national title against Alabama, the years he was beating Michigan and making the playoff. Here's what you got to ask yourself. Ohio State, they were winning all those games because they had Jimmies and Joes. They just had so much better players. Pretty much every time, almost every time, Ryan Day has come across a team, a similar caliber team, he's struggling. Because think about this. I'll leave on this. The only real time that Ohio State has beaten a team with as good of talent as they have is when they beat Clemson in that semifinal during the COVID year. I would challenge you to find a game where Ryan Day has really outcoached his opponent. That was the one game he did it, was against Dabo Swinney and that Clemson team. And that was when Clemson had a lot of questions coming around.
I feel like he outcoached Kirby Smart in Georgia. I mean, they didn't win the
Yeah.
game, but it came down to a minute.
They lost though.
They did, but I felt like that was.
He also had like a month to prepare for that game, and he also had a month to prepare for the what's it called?
For the game against Clemson.
But like, yeah. But other than that, find me a time where Ohio State has won a game because Ryan Day has really outcoached his opponent. I don't know if you can find it.
I mean,
and that's not to say that he's a bad coach because he recruits like none other. That's not saying he's a bad coach. It's just I don't know if like he's not as good. I feel like as people think he is. Because you need both to win a national title.
Everyone, make sure that you guys go ahead and check out the JT Sports Podcast. You can find us on all podcasting platforms, Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts from. You can find the JT Sports Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, leave us with a 5-star review. We're trying to get to 100 5-star reviews before the start of the college football and NFL seasons. Shout out to our guy, Quincy Bell Sports, longtime friend of the channel, for coming on today, man, bringing the heat. We appreciate you for coming on.
Having me, man. I always have fun.
Heck yeah. Before we let you go, let the people know what you got planned on the channel for the upcoming season just around the corner.
All right. So I plan on finishing. I only have one more. I'm planning on doing college football single season previews for all the Big Ten. I only have Wisconsin left. I might just record it right when I leave you here. And I'm going to do all the SEC, and then I'll do some other notable teams. I'll do like Clemson, Notre Dame, Florida State. I think, okay, I won't talk anymore. But I think I'll do all those. And then every week you will have me picking the games, weekly preview. And then I'll do NFL too. I'm more of a college football guy than NFL. For NFL, I really only hardcore pay attention to the Bears. I pay attention to other teams, but like, I'm more of a college football guy, so there'll be that. I'll do some MLB playoff stuff too. Hopefully the Cubs can turn around and make the playoffs. They're like a few games out. Hopefully they can turn it around. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be kicking it into second gear. I kind of took a hiatus over the summer, but we're back, man. I got a lot of good stuff planned.
Once again, you guys make sure that you guys check out our guy, Quincy Bell Sports. We thank you for coming on, and we look forward to having you on again, man.
Of course. And you got to come on mine, too.
Most def, man. I would love to come on. Just let me know the time, date, and I'm going to be there, man.